Hi, my name is Kennedy and welcome back or welcome to my channel.
No, I ain't sleeping alone, but you said that you would soon be home. But baby, that was a long time ago. I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling it.
What's up, y'all? I know it's been a minute. It's been a minute for the people who been subscribed to me. This is gonna be the rebrand video because I just wasn't feeling. I feel like that was just not me of what I really wanted to do with YouTube, and I was like, bro, like, what do you really like to do? What do you get into? True crime? That's my tea. I'm thinking, let's do some true crime. Let's do those stories that really nobody really even talk about. Not even just true crime, but history that, baby, I just don't know. I mean, anyways, that's not the point. This is the rebrand, and this is what I'm doing. If you do not fuck with it, you can unsubscribe. I don't care. If you don't like me cursing, oh, this is the disclaimer as well.
If you don't like me cursing, if you don't like me talking about marijuana, paraphernalia, you can also leave. This is my channel. I do what I want. Yeah, period. And if you don't like it, you can leave. If y'all want an update about me, I can do a whole nother video. I filmed another video, but I didn't really like it like that. But we can do a whole nother video, a whole nother time. But follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram. That's where I really been. If you really want to see, yeah, that's where I really be. If you really want to check on me. If you coming from Instagram or TikTok, I love you. I love you. Shout out to you. Period. But let's get into this story.
All right, so the case that we're going to be talking about today is like, this case is my start of like true crime. This case, I heard about it in like 2010, and I was like in kindergarten, y'all. So I was like, how old? Like 4 or 5? And yeah, so that's when I started doing true crime and stuff like that. I love true crime. That is my thing. And if you want me to talk about any other stories or cases, please drop them in the comments below. So the case that we're going to be talking about today is going to be the case of the Grim Sleeper. This case has very significance to me because my mom grew up and around this area. Literally was walking the streets as a kid, as a teenager, not knowing that there was a serial killer out there. So imagine that at 17, 18 in high school, going out with your friends, and something happens.
And also during this video, I am taking information from 2 documentaries specifically. One is a shorter one, and then the Grim Sleeper completely. And that's the Tales of the Grim Sleeper. This was the first ever documentary that I fucked with heavily.
I'll get into more of my comments and my opinions about what happens during this case more when we talk about it, but it's just crazy that most of this stuff I felt like could have been avoided. All right, so we're gonna start with one of the first victims. Her name was Monique Alicia Alexander. She was 18 years old and she was gone missing in 1988, and she was found shot in the chest underneath a mattress in an alleyway.
She was left for dead, and the thing about this is that she was actually left to bled out, which means that she could have survived if someone passed by and saw her, but nobody saw her because she was in the alleyway.
All the police know is that she was last seen in a orange Pinto.
This orange Pinto in the 1980s, I asked my mom, was like, were there orange Pintos like in the neighborhood? And she was like, no, not at all.
All the police know is that Alicia was last seen getting into an orange Pinto and driving off. That's all they know, and her case unfortunately goes cold. Now we go to our next victim. Her name is Anitria Washington. She was approached by a black man in a orange Pinto. She said that he came off charming, and he just approached her, and she was coming out of a liquor store, and he just approached her. He pulls up and starts talking to her and is trying to get her into the car and give her a ride to her friend's house, because she was going to her friend's house at this time. And so she was declining and was saying no, but he was still making her laugh, being charming. So she eventually actually gets in the car. So she starts showing him the way to her friend's house, and so he starts making a detour and actually starts saying, actually, I stop somewhere real quick. And she was like, well, okay, it's just in the neighborhood, that's fine. So he stops at his uncle's house, goes in, and comes right back out. Anitria says that as soon as this dude comes out, his whole personality changes. Like, he literally was so charming and funny, and then he just changed up dramatically and started being rude, just plain old rude, and started calling her Brenda.
Now, this is the 80s, so giving people a ride like that wasn't that bad back in the day, so remember that.
So he is now still going into a still completely different direction. Is still calling her Brenda. All of a sudden, he pulls into this alleyway, stops the car, looks at her, and just shoots her. And as soon as he shot her, she looks down and asks, like, oh, you shot me? You shot me. She just passes out. Now, she passes out, but she's like in and out of consciousness. But she sees that he is rubbing on her, and he is licking on her, touching her while she's in and out of consciousness. Then she sees a bright white light flash, like a picture, like a Polaroid picture, and he assaults her. After he assaults her, he pushes her out the car and drives away. This woman crawls all the way to her best friend's house and is knocking on the door. Her friend comes out and they call the police.
So Anitria survives, and she got shot in the chest. She gives the police all the details about what he looked like, everything. She gave a sketch. She gave what his car looked like. She gave him the detail about the Polaroid picture. She gave everything.
Now, unfortunately, LAPD could not find him, so her case goes cold as well.
I don't know if I said this. Alicia's case in 1988 and Anitri's case were 3 months apart.
So another thing that was like just questionable to me was how common was it to see an orange Pinto in the 80s?
So that's why I asked my mom, and she was like, you really didn't see nothing, because those weren't really the car back then. A Pinto was like the 70s type of car, so it's like, and it's a bright orange color, you know, so it's not a common car. The Tales of the Grim Sleeper, I feel like, is if you want to watch it, it is more of a realistic tale of
the police really weren't trying
to find this killer, because quote unquote they wanted to
clean up the streets.
Now, I'm not saying I'm not on the hate train of all cops are bad. I'm never on that.
But
Or are we all just trying to keep it on a hush-hush because this was quote-unquote cleaning up the streets?
Quote, cleaning up the streets, meaning that there were a lot of, I'm gonna say it, hookers, sex workers at this time. And I'm not calling these victims sex workers at all, but I'm saying that idea that they might be a sex worker because they were found in an alley. You see what I mean? Like, they didn't care that much because they had their idea set on this was a sex worker, and it wasn't. These were sex work. You had an idea that these were sex workers when no, these are people's daughters, y'all. Like, and even if it was a sex worker, these are still people's daughters. It doesn't matter. You can't just leave someone on the street. You just can't pick up these bodies and just be like, oh well. Like, you can't just do that.
So the LAPD, they finally start going through cold cases. Now they're starting to pick up some similarities in some of these cold cases. They started seeing so many black women being dumped in alleyways, seeing the same MO, same pattern.
And the pattern was being dumped in an alleyway, being shot with a .25 caliber in the chest, and being dumped in an alleyway.
The LAPD discovered that there were about 25 to 88 women with the same pattern.
And I'm not trying to laugh it off like it's funny. I'm trying to laugh at it because how ridiculous is that?
So now the police are starting to finally realize that we got a psychopath.
Like, we got someone running loose around here, killing black women.
So in 1985, another victim named Deborah Jackson, 29 years old, is found in an alleyway under a carpet and showed signs of sexual abuse, and she was shot in the same area.
In 1986, a 35-year-old victim named Henrietta Wright was found in a alleyway underneath a mattress, again shot in the chest. Barbara Ware, in 1987, was found in an alleyway, also was shot in the chest.
So between 1987 and 1988, 4 more women were shot. So in total, that is 7 victims. 7. The LAPD finally really starts looking into these cases, starts really digging.
And looking at three of these cases, they knew that it was the same guy.
At this time, the community was not notified about these killings. So since he appeared very, very charming and all these women were getting into his car, they thought, oh, maybe he's a cop. Nah.
And so, during this time, and again, I don't mean to be rude, I don't mean to disrespect any of the families of the victims at all, but again, the police, in my opinion, were mixing in the two mindsets of, okay, if it's a sex worker, we don't care about them. If it's someone who has a family, okay, we'll look into it. There were so many more victims that were shot like that who were sex workers. They were sex workers who were shot the same way. They just did not have someone who might have been looking for them at that time. You see what I mean? So, like, let's say that a prostitute gets into a car with a guy. They go into the alleyway, they do a little something. She gets shot and left in the alley. If men are doing this frequently, they probably think like, oh, like, we're not going to waste our time on this person, right? So they just toss away the case. But they didn't take it as seriously as they should have when it's actually women out here who are not sex workers, who have families, but also who are sex workers who are also getting killed as well in their line of work.
So one night, a police officer pulls over a car and does a little traffic stop. They notice that it's a cop, a black cop, a narcotics cop, and he's in the passenger seat with someone who don't look like his type for real, if you know what I mean. So they were like, he kind of looked like the suspect a little bit. So they call it in. I think they start chasing him out the car and arrest him. They find him with crack and a prostitute, and they arrest him. In the back of his trunk there is a 25 caliber gun. So they think, oh, we got our guy, we got him. They didn't get him. Something happened with the gun. It was an error. So something happened. They release him and he don't get his job, nothing. He got fired. Also, he did not only have crack, he had coke, meth. He was a narcotics cop. He could get what he wanted. The murder stopped for about a year, and that was actually during the time that Ricky Ross was arrested. So they were like, so the police still think that Ricky Ross is the guy. He's not. And they still think he is, but he's not. And the sightings of this Pinto are gone. I don't know why he decided to take a break, but he did. So one day, Anitria is walking home. This was the year of the Grim Sleepers break, basically. And she's walking home, and a man is walking on the sidewalk in front of her house. He looks at her and asks, "Do you know who I am?" And she says, "No." "Am I supposed to?" She didn't recognize him right away. And then she was like, "Oh my God, that's the dude that shot me." So 14 years passed. 14 years passed. Okay. And DNA is now introduced into this case. And now they're running the DNA for it. Because they actually have his saliva and his semen. Because he left it. Yep, he left it on all the victims. So unfortunately, since DNA was new at the time, he was not in the criminal database. But with that DNA, they find 2 more victims. And these victims are from 2002 and 2003. So he never stopped. And the police thought that he stopped. No, he never stopped. Baby, he never stopped. So in 2002, the Grim Sleeper, he kills this 15-year-old runaway. Her name is Princess. She was found in an alleyway and shot the same exact way, same gun. And the police, they try to keep this quiet, but during this time, technology is much better. So a reporter actually gets her hands on this story, and Christine releases a article about the Grim Sleeper, and she gives him the name the Grim Sleeper because he took that big break. He took that big break. Really wasn't a big break, but he took that break, and so now he's back in active, I guess. So now the police, they finally are like, okay, we really gotta get on this. We gotta get on it, y'all. So they now put out a $500,000 reward. They put up signs, they put up everything. They put up, this is the biggest reward that the LAPD has ever done. Yeah. And after the article comes out, families are starting to be like, bro, like he never stopped. And there's more families and more families and more families coming out and saying this happened to them, this happened to them. Now they like, okay, we need to research and get down to business now. Okay. So LAPD starts getting down to business. So now they start researching a different type of DNA technique, which this DNA technique was not tried in California at all at this time. But it was basically, they will get the DNA and try to pull familiar match, like from his family.
So they find a direct relative, which is his son, named Christopher Franklin.
Christopher, he was arrested for drugs and all that stuff. They find his son and they go through his son's family basically, and they check off all his family, but the only person that did not check off is his dad. So they were like, let's go see if Lonnie Franklin is the killer. Oh, and yeah, his name is Lonnie Franklin. So this dude right here is named Lonnie Franklin Jr. Yes, he's a junior. And they caught him when he was 57 years old. That's him. Yeah. He lived on 21st Street and Western Avenue in California. And actually, this is the street that Anitria was taken. This dude lived like 2 doors down from her the whole time. And this dude, he was a community man. And he was a husband. He was married previous, and then he had another wife, and then he had a son. He was a normal man, community man, mechanic. He used to help everybody, and people were shocked. He was the local garbage man. So one thing about garbage men, they know the streets of the city. So he knows, oh, they don't look over here. So he could dump these bodies in these discreet places and not be recognized by anybody. Or so he thought.
To prove that Lonnie is the killer and that his DNA aligns with all the killings, they have to get his DNA, but LAPD is having trouble. They're having trouble. So they chase this dude down for 3 days, and so he's going to a birthday party. He's going to the birthday party and he's eating pizza. He drinking some soda. He throw it away. The cops take it. The cops get his DNA off some pizza, and they get a match. He is the killer.
So they raided Lonnie Franklin's home. It was a mess. He was a hoarder. They were hoarders. It was disgusting. His house was filled with junk. The cops raid his house and they find pictures. They find all the pictures of all his victims. They find up to about almost 150 photos of different women. They find some alive, some dead, some of them they can't identify to this day. Lonnie, he gets arrested. They tell him, like, dude, dude, we found your DNA. We found it. Like, it's over. I'm sorry. The gig is up. He's like, what are y'all talking about? He is denying. And he keeps denying all the way up to his trial. And he is found guilty of 10 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder for Anitria because she still lived. In that house, in those photos, they did find Anitria's photo. And not only that, everything added up. They found the Pinto, they found everything. Everything added up to what she was saying.
His community was so shocked. But one thing I will say about the Tales of the Grim Sleeper, the directors and the producer of the whole entire film kept it real and also asked the hard questions. In that documentary, the director goes around his community and asks questions like, was he fishy to y'all? And then at first they would be like, no, like he was a cool guy. And then they would remember, like, oh yeah, one time he showed me handcuffs. Like, whoa, like, and it's not funny, but like he had a whole nanny and assaulted his nanny. Like, when were one of y'all going to speak up about his actions? You know, because those are he could have went away for a long ass time. They would go around and ask questions to some of the locals again, and some of them would be like, yeah, like I would clean up blood for him. What? There was one dude who would say, oh yeah, he gave me money to burn a van that was covered in blood. To be married to someone like that and knowing that, and even in the documentary they interview Christopher Franklin's girlfriend, which is the Grim Sleeper's son's girlfriend, and she was like, yeah, it was she described the house. She said that the house was dark. It was always dark. There was porn magazines everywhere. There will be photos. He would be taking photos of them. That he would be peeping in, trying to look, being a little creep. Imagine how many creepy family members y'all have. Imagine that person that you think is that. Oh, that's just Bill. No, that's not just Bill. Bill got a problem. He needs a mental institution now.
So he was found guilty, of course, and then he was sentenced to the death penalty. He died in jail in 2020.
I used to be afraid of that man, I'm not gonna lie, because it's just like, bruh, he was still roaming around when I was born. He was still roaming around after Michael Jackson died. Think about that. I'm just saying, because they captured him in July 4th, 2010.
The Grim Sleeper in total was roaming around for about 23 years.
I'm just saying, the community failed those women. The LAPD, the city, failed those women. And it's just like, bruh, if this is how y'all feel about black women,
like, damn, this man was roaming around for 23 years. Could have possibly had up to 100 different victims, not murders, victims. And it's just like, imagine how many of those stories could have been prevented if someone would have spoke up, or someone would have looked into these cases and arrested that man. Anyway, I don't know. I just feel like black women, we've been put down, but this was a different type of low. That time, there were women who were protesting about this killer, and I'll put them on the screen, but there were women who were protesting about them, but there were no press. Black women, all my black women out there, be safe. Please be safe. Be mindful. Be careful. And if y'all liked this type of video, if y'all liked how I told this story,
hey, I could do a whole nother video or like a whole live, bro. We could do like a whole live talking about this, because this, in my opinion, it's crazy. It's very crazy.
but I love y'all. I will definitely be doing more of these types of videos, like true crime videos, because I love true crime.
Put some more ideas in the comments that you want to see me do. Put some more cases that you want me to research, or that you have done your research on, that you want me to say, that you want me to do.
Make sure you click that subscribe button. Make sure you click that like button. And make sure you follow my TikTok. Make sure you follow my Instagram. I believe that's it. And I love y'all. And wait. Love y'all. Bye.